welcome on in to an absolutely fantastic episode of Bar Talk. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, happy Thursday, happy Friday, happy Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Whenever it is you're listening to this, I hope you're having the best day ever. And guys, you have the power to turn around if it's not going the way you want it to, okay? So just flip the switch. That's really all it is. I know it sounds like it's kind of hard, but you can really choose to look at the glass as being half full or half empty. Okay. We are on episode 66 today. Today on this episode, I am having Paige Dimakos on. Paige is the CEO of the Draft Network and is the host of TDN Fantasy Guys. I met Paige through Allie Reddick, who we had on the show a little while back. Guys, I think it's incredible. Like, Paige is a 30-year-old CEO of a sports media company. Like, get at you, girl. I just was honestly, I was like, I can't even believe I'm like sitting down talking to you. She is a Chicago girl, hailing from Greektown. And I am just really excited to have her on. And guys, we kind of just like dove right in and like really didn't talk about sports. I mean, we did, but we didn't. But we talked more about adversity and facing obstacles in life and how I know it can be a little easy to shy away and like to pull back from adversity because it's scary and because we don't want to go towards something that is difficult or that is a struggle. But when you charge head first towards adversity, that is where growth comes. That is where beauty comes. And I said this in the episode, and I'm going to say it now. The adversity would not be put in front of you if you couldn't handle it. I am a full believer in that. In the moment, it might be so hard to be like, how am I supposed to overcome this? Why is this happening to me? And again, like we have all fallen down that rabbit hole of like, kind of like, why me? But again, flip the cup. Like, why not me? Like you're supposed to grow from this. You're supposed to evolve from this. And that's exactly what our conversation was all about, is growth and um going towards things that are a little scary at times. But honestly, I just really believe that that is where beauty lies. So guys, I'm really excited to have you listen on in. And before we do that, let me tell you guys, Paige finally got to go to some sporting events. I have finally gotten to go to some sporting events. I will never take going into a baseball stadium, a football stadium, an arena for granted ever again after this last year that we have. And ladies, I should say, ladies that are listening to this, you're going to want a cute bag. Okay. There's nothing wrong with looking fashionable, but while rocking your favorite sports logo, jersey, sweatshirt, hoodie, t-shirt, whatever it may be. And the bag that you are going to want to wear is Margot Page. It is the handbag for all year wear, made with durable and recycled materials. Guys, these bags meet venue standards and all like guidelines. For those of you who go to NFL games, you need to have like a bag that is the size of, I don't know, like sunglasses. And like, ladies, let's be real. Like, I got shit I gotta carry, okay? They have bags in all different shapes and sizes. My three favorite that I am wearing quite often, I love the clear tote bag, guys. And what is really great about the clear tote bag is that there is a black bag inside of the clear tote that you can take in or out, so it can still look, kind of discreet, we'll say. The clear fringe crossbody bag I adore and just like can't get enough of it. And that's like the perfect bag for like quick game, don't need a lot of things, like put your ID, put your debit card in, a little lip gloss, a little mint, a little do whatever you need to do. But let's be real, the fanny pack is making a comeback, y'all. And the clear fanny pack you are going to love. Okay, so guys, head on over to their Instagram page, which is Margot_Page, or their website, which is margotpage.com. And you are going to get 10% off your next order using promo code BARTALK10. All right. Don't forget to use promo code BARTALK10 at checkout for your chance to get 10% off your next order. Guys, for those of you who know me and for those of you who don't know me, one thing I love the most is a candle. There is nothing I enjoy more than candles burning in my home. I love the smell of them. And the only candle that I trust to have burning in my home is LYW candles. LYW standing for Light Your Way Candles. My new summer scent, we'll say, I don't have it burning yet because I'm waiting, is the Marg. It is fresh lime, sea salt, and agave. Guys, it smells like a beach, okay? And being in Chicago where like we don't got beaches, it makes me feel like my toes are in the sand and I absolutely adore it. Some of my other favorite scents, guys, by LYW Candles. Love the Hunter, eucalyptus. The Class Act, guys, is just like absolutely adorable. It's amazing. And guys, they're the only candle I trust to have burning in my house. And LYW Candles is kind enough to give you 20% off your next order using promo code BARTALK20. So head on over to their Instagram, which is LYW Candles, or their website, which is LYWCandles, candles with an S.com. And don't forget to use promo code BARTALK20 to get 20% off your next order. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive on into this conversation. I know you are going to benefit from this. I know I really benefited from this. So, ladies and gentlemen, without absolute further ado, the reason you are all here today, my conversation with the CEO of the Draft Network, Paige Dimakos. Okay, Paige, I'm so excited to chat with you. And the first thing I want to kind of dive into is you and I both practice gratitude. And
Yes.
I love gratitude. I turned to gratitude at a time in my life when I lost my job because I said, there's a lot to be grateful for, girl. And you got to find it. And the goal was you needed to find something new every day because it's there. You just got to dig deep. So I'm curious to know when you turned to your gratitude box, what were you going through at that point in your life?
So I feel like because it's so close proximity wise, I am going to grab it. So hold on.
Oh,
Hold on here.
yay.
We have props. Right?
Yay, I love it.
So you can see it. So it says, I'll put it up to the camera, my gratitude box, right? So it's
I
this
love
little
it.
gratitude box that I got that I'm pretty sure I got at TJ Maxx, right? Like a great spot to get this. So you'll laugh because it says, right, I have the ones that are already filled out. So I keep them and I put them in blue like that. I put the paper clip over them. And then it says, I am grateful for, right? And there's a little individual card and you fill them out every day. So one of my nearest and dearest friends that plays in the league, Tyron Matthew, is a total spiritual gangster.
Love it.
He is an OG and cannot even compare to the life that he has had, right? Where he's had so many, like everyone has shit, right? But he's had a lot of shit, right? He's had a lot of things, he grew up in a tough neighborhood. He got himself out of there. He's had, I look up to him in that way, in the way that if he can find gratitude, right? Like it's like everybody can find things to be grateful for, right? And that's kind of the point, is like everybody's going through their own shit. Everybody has stuff that's happened to them in their past. And it's about, one, moving forward, two, allowing yourself to feel those emotions, but then reminding yourself, which that's what gratitude's for, right? So it's like reminding yourself, like, today I could be grateful for the fact that I am meeting somebody new, which is a great new thing to do, right? Like I'm meeting Jenna for the first time. That will more than likely be my thing today because I love meeting new people. COVID has made that really hard. And so now like meeting new people feels extra special to me. Right. And so I think, I started that right when I moved here to Arizona, out of college, and I didn't know anybody out here. And so I started, my colleagues were my work people, the athletes I was around every day. I had this kind of very eclectic, strange working environment because I was working all the time. I didn't have any friends. And, it was great that I had asked Tyron about, what was the one thing that he had done that changed his life. And he told me about gratitude. And then his pastor, Scott Savage, has really just enforced that. He's, sent me books, and he kind of always keeps me on the path. And, whether you're, religious or not, this is less about religion and way more about just like being in tune with yourself, being in tune with, how you can be grateful, because the reality is everybody everybody in the world, including the richest person in the world that you might think has no problems, right? They get up in the morning, and you can get up and choose to think about the negative things that are happening, think about the things you want to complain about, think about all those things, because everybody has those things. But the gratitude thing is forcing you to get out of that space and put yourself in a place where you start to recognize having clean water is something you should be grateful for. Being able to shower in a hot shower is something you like. There are many places in the world that people don't have those things. And I think that's kind of the point of, yes, those are, small things, but they could be really big things to somebody else. And that's, kind of the point.
Yeah. I said to myself when all of this was happening and my bank account just kept demising away because I had no money coming in and it was all going out. I said, I have a roof over my head, I have food in my belly, and I have a bed to go to sleep in. I have everything. I don't need anything. And I remember saying that to people and they were like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, do you have those things? You're good. And I was like, I know it sounds on the grand scheme of things in the world that we live in, like, yeah, this is ridiculous. But it's like, no, but look, like, get outside of your own shoes, get outside of your own mind.
For sure.
Look at the world at a larger picture and realize that those basic necessities people don't have.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have them. And I think the nature of where we live now, right, in the world that we live in now with social media creates a lot of want, right?
So
it creates
want.
More than, keeping up with the Joneses is a saying for a reason. And it's been a saying for a long time. And I think that has only been put on steroids because now it's like, well, look at my friend on vacation. Like, I want to be on vacation. I want to be doing those things. I want to be. And I encourage people to, one, if you find yourself scrolling aimlessly through social media, I'm not going to be that person that tells you to get off social. That's not realistic, right? No. It's not realistic. And two, it's part of my business, right? So I'm not going to tell people to get off social media. What I'm going to tell you is be conscious of the things that you are consuming. And if you are aimlessly scrolling every day, and there is nothing that is inspiring you, there is nothing that is bringing you joy, you need to start reassessing who you're following and what that is bringing to you. Because if it's bringing you a lot of anxiety and greed and want, you should probably reassess who you're following on social media and think about why you're thinking those things. And I know it sounds complex, but it's really not that hard. It really will take you a matter of a few hours to just weed out a bunch of people or start fresh. I encourage people to start fresh all the time because I think sometimes you just get into a rut and you just kind of need to hit the reset button, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And when you realize the Joneses can't even keep up with the Joneses, you stop keeping up with the damn Joneses because they just can't do it.
I'm just telling you, none of us are keeping up with Jeff Bezos. I'm never going to make as much money as Jeff Bezos, right? Like it's never going to happen. There's probably never anybody in the world that is going to have as much money as him. So just take that, digest it, and go, okay, moving on, right? Like it's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's moving on, good. Moving right along.
I am a big believer in adversity. And I think for the longest time, I used to run away from it. And now I run towards it because I realize that that's where you grow the most. And I know you love adversity, and I think it scares people, but again, just flip the switch. What was the earliest form of adversity that you had to face in your life?
Yeah, I think, being a kid, my parents got divorced when I was really young. And I had a younger brother, my brother Jared. And, my mom was really going through a tough time with the divorce. And she started to reach for things that, were not great. And, without going into too much detail about the, demise of that time of her life, I was forced to be an adult at 8 years old. Right. And take care of a 6-year-old. Right. And like no 8-year-old is really, there's not a single 8-year-old in the world that's prepared to deal with anybody, let alone take care of themselves, let alone a 6-year-old. Right. And so people always, I think people always make assumptions, right? They assume that, oh, you're this happy, tall, blonde girl. You must have had this like super, white picket fence, perfect life. Totally opposite. My childhood was not great. And I often think to myself, though, if my childhood was not the way that it was, would I be the successful, driven, hardworking individual that I am now? I don't know the answer to that question. I think I always had a hardworking mentality. From the time I was a child, I really wanted, I was a figure skater. I begged my parents to let me do it. I was like the kid that was 5 and got up at 5:30 in the morning. My parents didn't need to get me up. Like I was very driven and dedicated. But I think at that young age, being forced to be responsible, right, for my brother and cook and clean and take care of the house and manage things, and like from like 8 to 13, basically like this very influential time in your childhood where you're really, supposed to be nurtured and growing up. And I was nurturing my brother and also just like learning how to be an adult. And if you talk to anybody, whether it's like my family or my friends or, business partners or colleagues, there's a routine thing that comes up. They always call me an old soul, right? It's like, oh, she's an old soul, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there's a part of that I was probably born that way a little bit. Like I was probably always been that way. But then there's also a part of it that was, part of the environment that I grew up in, where I was forced to be an adult very, very early on and be responsible for myself and my brother. And instead of looking at that and walking through all the details, the painful details, right? I choose to, I'm a big proponent of therapy, very helpful for me in my life, of getting through that. But then after that, it's like looking back now, and I choose to see it in a positive way, because I really think it taught me and forced me, because of the adversity that I was forced to go through, to be this like incredibly strong individual at 14 years old, right? And just like walking into high school and not being intimidated and going into every room and asking for what I wanted. And that's a really hard thing to do when you're a woman in general, but especially a young woman. But I was forced into that because I just didn't have a choice. And so it was like, now I just assume I'm supposed to be there. And that has been very influential in my life. And that's the other side of the adversity of like, hey, you had to go through all this stuff when you were a kid to get to this point, but then look at all the positive success that you kind of had early on. And I don't think it's that, I know for a fact my path is not the same if I had this just like totally perfect childhood. I just don't think it would be, because adversity forces you to become a stronger, more driven person. It just does. And if you don't face adversity, it doesn't have to be as grand as what I had to go through. But I think now, even watching my cousins have kids and my aunts and uncles, it's like this generation, and I feel like I'm the old lady on the hill, right? And it's like they're like trying to not allow their children to face adversity. And it's such a disservice to kids and people and humans, because you're gonna have to face adversity. And if you keep everybody away from it and don't force them to deal with it, it's just going to set them up for a huge failure later on, because they're not going to know how to handle it. And it's easier to handle stuff and figure shit out when you're a kid, right? Like you just have to figure it out, versus waiting until you're, 19 and in college and you're faced with your first thing and mommy and daddy aren't there to fix it. And it's like, oh shit, what do I do now? That's not great.
No, it's not. And I think people don't realize too that like you can love, it's like a smothering love. Like I think parents always do things out of love, but you don't realize in the moment that it's not actually the most beneficial thing for your child in the long run, because think about who, like one day they're not going to be with you anymore. And one day they're going to get a lot of shit thrown their way. And no one, part of my French, no one fucking cares who your mom or dad is, because you have to be the one who does it on your own. So it's like, embrace adversity and embrace the uncomfortable growth that comes with it, because that is where the beauty lies. And the other thing I've said to myself is like, you wouldn't have this adversity put in front of you if you couldn't handle it.
Of course.
Of
course. It's I agree. I agree. It's tough to see when you're in it, right? It's so afterwards. It's afterwards that you are able to look back and have reflection and be able to deal with things positively. But I encourage people to talk about that, right? I encourage people, because it's like, yes, I encourage therapy, but I also encourage people to just like have tough conversations with your friends, with your family, with people around you, because I think there's so much surface. There's so much surface level bullshit, man. Like there's just so much of that. And it's
Yeah.
nobody needs to know. I love that I jumped on this call with you and you and I have never met. And we just went like right in, right? Like it was like childhood and growing up in bars and doing stuff. And it was like, but that's like, to me, that's how you build relationships. That's how you build connection. That's how humans really interact. And the surface level, DMing people on Instagram is not interaction, people. That's not getting you any level of engagement that you need as a human. So I encourage you to share your shit, man, because it's easier to relate to you when you realize you're not this perfect person living on a hill that has had everything given to them, because then other people will be like, oh man, I'm going through that too. Like, oh, I have gone through that. And then you can relate to each other and you can build a relationship. And I think there's a little bit, that's not a little bit, a lot of that's been lost. And I think COVID forced us to hopefully, I'm hoping that COVID forced people to realize how important human interaction is. I hope it has. I hope it's forced people to truly realize how important it is to engage with your family, with your friends, with the person at the store, with the homeless man. Smile at them, say hello. Like these are things that are monumental and seem like I'm preaching about this like crazy stuff. No, it's not. It's like such simple things. It's just like, be a human, right? Like it just like, be a human. Don't be a robot.
Don't be a robot. And I realize this working in a restaurant, which I do now. So it's the most well-oiled ship on the planet. And what people, when you walk into a restaurant, you see me, the bartender, the server, the hostess. What you don't see is the people in the kitchen, in the dish, doing the prep work, doing all of this. And you know what I do every single day when I walk in? I say hi to every single one of them. It's not this like, it's like, just say hi, learn their names. And you know what's crazy about doing that? In doing that, there's this level of respect of like, yes, he cleans the dishes, but like, he's a human being. And because he's a human being, and because I know his name, and because I'm just willing to talk to him, we now have a connection, and I'm willing to help him and he's willing to help me in anything. It's like, just fucking be nice. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard, man. It feels like, and that's why it's like, sometimes I'm like, do you hear yourself? But you know what? Like, I've just gotten over it, because it's like, you know what? I can relate. I can recall, okay, I'm 23 years old, right? I'm right out of school. I'm living here. I'm working my first job in Arizona. I'm covering the Arizona Coyotes. Okay. The Coyotes had just gotten a new ownership group, right? And I didn't know, like, you're talking about like my first day in Phoenix, like my bosses were just like, go. And I was like, oh, so I don't get any prep. Like, you didn't tell me anything on my first day. So I was like, hey, we'll just figure it out when we get there. Right. So I pull up, I get my press pass, I go into the practice, and I walk up the stairs, like in the practice facility. And I'm just sitting there and I'm watching the guys go through their drills and whatnot. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, taking notes and doodling, honestly, quite frankly, at that point, because I was like, I haven't been given an objective. So I'm just going to doodle and write things that will spark a good story later on. Yeah. And I look up and I see these bright orange shoes. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge sneaker person, right? And this guy is walking up and he just looks like I don't know who the hell he is. And I'm like, dope shoes, dude. And he like looks up at me and he's like bright eyed. And I was like, oh, like, did I scare him? And he's like, oh, thanks. And then like kind of like scurries up the stairs, right? So the two guys that were sitting like a little bit further down from me, they are laughing. And I'm like, did I do something bad? Like, what did I do? And they're like, oh, that's the new owner of the team, Paige. And I was like, oh, got it. Understood. Like, what, like nobody else is like even saying a word to this human being. Mind you, oh, the new girl is like, dope shoes, dude, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't help myself from being myself. Like it doesn't matter. But the moral of that story is like the long and short of it is that moment humanized him and it humanized me. Mm-hmm. And after that, he came and found me and was like, I just want to give you my card and make sure like, you're comfortable. Nice to meet you. Well, guess what? I never sat ever not in the owner's box with my boyfriend for the rest of time in Arizona, because I developed a relationship with this entire group of Canadian people. And they always told me they were all multimillionaires, some of them billionaires, right? Mm-hmm. And they all would tell me, you know why we love you? Because you treat us how you treat the security guard, right? You treat everybody the same. And I think that was like to me in my head, I was just like, this is how you're supposed to be, right? Like, you're not any better than Richard, who lets me in at the security gate. Like, he's a great human. You're a great human. And the fact that I didn't know who they were, and I was like, oh, dope shoes. Like, that was such a funny thing for him, that he was like, I love that you just didn't know who I was. And you were just like, oh, cool shoes. And I was like, yeah, that's just kind of how I am, man. Like, I'm going to know like all the security people in the arenas everywhere in Phoenix. I know all of them every time because I covered the teams, and the people that have been there. It's been probably, since I started 7 or 8 years, and I haven't been doing it in 6. I still know all of them. I walk in, oh, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, I know that they're not getting that from a lot of people, because the reaction that I get, like, it's like I'm doing the most, and I'm just saying hello to a human being. And it's like, man, we really got to get it together. Like, it's really not that hard, man. It's really not that hard.
I know. Oh, okay. I want to pivot a little bit because I love that story. But when we did talk, you did say that, when you did first start off in this industry, it wasn't the greatest or maybe the most welcoming from your other female colleagues, and you were bullied a little bit. But it's, I think what is a more beautiful full circle moment is like your why now shines through, of like being a mentor, helping young women, and wanting to have more opportunities, and like lifting everyone up along the way, because you're Greek. There is a spot for every person at the table, and there always is. And when you realize that, you stop playing this game of competition and like throwing out your swords and like fighting each other and defending yourselves. What were you able to learn about yourself from being bullied by other women in this industry?
Oh man. I learned that I really have never craved, which is a strange thing to say. I've never craved affirmation from men. I haven't ever. And I think a lot of women do. And I thought that like, it's kind of a normal thing. Like, you want dudes to say, oh, you're doing a great, but my dad, I think this is where it goes back to like environmental. Yeah. My dad always affirmed me. Right. And it was my mom who didn't. Right. And because she wasn't around for a period of time, now she does, and she's around, but it's like that environmental breakdown and looking like, psychology, why you do certain things. It was like, I just so desperately wanted a female mentor, wanted it so bad. Right. And I had so many great in college. I had it was like, I always had amazing at Fox Sports out here in Arizona, Richard Science. It was just like, they were so wonderful to me. Yeah. They were wonderful to me, but it did not matter. All I wanted was one of the older females that had been doing it, the OGs in the industry, to just be like, let me take you under your wing. And just like, I would have, as a working person, gone and I would have acted like an intern. I just wanted that interaction. I wanted that affirmation from somebody that I looked up to, because to me, it was like, I can't look up to the men in the industry because I'm never going to be you, right? Like, I don't look like you. I don't act like you. I don't talk like you. Like, I can't be you, right? But I can be this version. And so I learned through that process that was like, man, I got to figure out a different way to fulfill this within myself, because I'm not getting this, right? And I try, and it was not one person, it was not 2 people, like it was multiple people in multiple different situations. And that was a tough thing to learn as a 22, 23-year-old, right out of school. Like, I was really, quite frankly, I was very disappointed. Like, it was very hard for me to just like swallow that and go, okay, like, what are we going to do about it? Right. Like you and I talked about earlier here, it was like, okay, feel sorry for yourself, and then you got to move on. Right. Like, how are you going to deal with this? Mm-hmm. And so how I started dealing with it is I started volunteering my time to ASU and just said like, hey, like, I'll talk at classes and I'll help the Women in Sports Association group and blah, blah, blah. And so it just kind of like started to build. And I realized throughout that process that, that fulfillment that I was seeking started to be fulfilled in a way that I didn't I didn't know it was going to be fulfilled. And now it's totally fulfilled for me. And it's like, I'm like so fulfilled. Like because to me, I realized about myself that more than me needing, one of my love languages, right? I like to give, right? That's a thing that brings me love and satisfaction. And so watching others, especially women, succeed brings me so much joy. And if I'm a part of the process, it's like this like prideful, like, this is amazing, I'm so excited for you, right? And it's like more than anything that I do for myself, more fulfillment than for my own accomplishments. I enjoy watching the people that are in my life and the people I'm mentoring, the people I'm talking to succeed. And that was a flip of a switch. Like I had to realize like, okay, you thought this is what you needed. It's not happening. So instead of, lamenting and worrying about it, how are you going to flip it around and make it something that's, positive? And it's definitely it wasn't something that happened overnight. You don't build relationships and mentorships and all this stuff. Like I was 23, I'm 31. Right. And it probably took until I was like, 28 till it really started to like really click for me. But I think now I do have female mentorship from people that I look up to, like Joy Taylor. Like she would do anything for me. She's amazing. Like Doris Burke. Like I reached out to her a couple of times on Twitter and she has been, she sent me a microphone because I dressed like her for Halloween. Right. Like it was like people that like Doris is a god. Like I'm like, oh my God, it's Doris Burke. Like, so, like, I'm like, I don't care about LeBron. Who cares about him? Doris. Like, like, it's just like, to me, it's like, wow, you are like the pinnacle of women in sports. Right. And so it took me, I know that's a long-winded answer, but like, it took me a while to get to that point, right? Where I was like, okay, I'm not getting fulfilled in this way. I had to figure out a new way. I did figure out that new way. And then it's come back to me kind of tenfold with like, I have found really amazing women in the industry who are wonderful and inspiring. And this time, 2021, oh my gosh, it feels like light years ahead of where it was 2011, 10 years ago. Like it's a totally different environment than Paige working in, I was, a student and I'm covering the University of Nebraska. And I can remember what that feeling felt like and what it, the lack of women in the, media relations department and yada, yada. And now it feels a lot more even. It's not completely there, but it's a lot. It's light years ahead of where it was 10 years ago for sure.
Yeah. Could you share the story of your professor from Nebraska?
Yeah, I sure can. So the exception to the rule, right? Because there's always the one person that was not the bully. She was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. Her name's Trina Creighton. Shout out to Trina. Hopefully she listens to this at some point and probably cries. But she was very influential in my life while I was in broadcasting school. And she identified pretty early on, I think it was a junior in college, that she was like, you have it, kid. She's like, I'm just telling you, I can see it. I can't coach that. I can't teach it. You just have it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, great. Like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So she offered up to me, which has been insane. I can't even quantify how helpful and influential it is. She offered up to coach me. And by coach me, I mean like across the board, right? She sat with me in a recording booth. And as a girl that grew up in Chicago, part of the reason I went to Nebraska was to get rid of that accent. And it comes out every once in a while, but whoo, baby, it used to be real. Watching a Bears game, you were like, oh, she's from Chicago. Yikes. And I'm like, just kind of, I knew if I wanted to be in broadcasting at the time, especially like, I was like, I got to really project. I got to learn how to use my voice. I got to learn how to not have Minnie Mouse voice, as my mom would say. Like you get this little like, I'm a like valley girl. Yeah. Right. So Trina and I spent, hours and hours. And one, you know this because you're doing the podcast now. Nobody likes listening to their own damn voice. Okay. It's like the worst thing to do. And she was like, get over yourself. You have to listen. And I was like, oh, okay, this sounds terrible, but okay. In the recording booth, like I'm freaking Dr. Dre, like over and over and over and over, like, we're going to do this until you can hear yourself and recognize when you're going up and down in your inflection. And when she coached me, and I know every job I've ever had, every single job, at some point, someone's coming up to me, and it's happened hundreds of times. Like, you have a great voice, you have great command of your voice. And it's because of her. It's not like I just knew how to do that. Yeah. She taught me that. She taught me how to recognize that, how to listen to it. And man, that was such a big thing. And then her just like throughout my, junior, senior, and super senior year, as I stayed to do graduation, I want to do coverage of the election, right? So this is the second term for Obama. I wanted to go through that process. She chose me and one other girl to anchor the coverage, Jenna, and the two of us hosted it together. And it was like I was working for CNN, like 8 to 5 every day, going out, getting stories. And man, she knew I was coachable, right? Because I wanted her to be my mentor, but I didn't want her to just sit around and tell me I was great. I wanted her to push me. And I know that she has told me multiple times, you can always tell the kids you can push and the ones you can't, right? And she's like, that's the identifier for me. She's like, I'm always going to invest in the kids that I know I'm going to give constructive criticism to, and they're not going to turn around and back to the adversity conversation. They're not going to be like, oh, I don't know how to handle this, blah, blah, blah. They're going to go, yep. Okay, let's do this. Like, let's get better at it. And man, she was tough on me, but I needed that. Like, it was like, this is what it will be like. If you want to go work in TV, you want to work in broadcasting, somebody's going to come in and they're going to tell you, oh, your voice sucks. This sucks, blah, blah, blah. You got to get over it. And she's like, I am not nearly as nasty as some old man is going to be when you're in there. And I want you to be prepared. And she was a Black woman in the 70s and 80s doing it. So I can't even imagine the stuff that she was told, right? That's why she is the toughest person that I have ever met in the industry. And she taught me so much. And I could sit here and talk about her for an hour because there's so many moments and stories. But I think the overarching theme with her for me was that female mentor didn't come in what I thought it would come from, right? I wanted it from like a person that was working still in the industry, but it came from her in a different way as a professor. And she pushed me and she challenged me. And man, the first 3 years out of school, I sent her everything. I said, pick it apart. Tell me what I need to get better, blah, blah, blah. And damn, she's teaching however many classes. I always got feedback, always. And that she's a rock star, man. She's super influential. So I hope everybody has the opportunity to have, a professor that inspires them. I had many. I was very lucky at Nebraska. I had amazing professors. But she was the shining star because she pushed me, man. She was tough on me, but I needed it. And it never, ever did anything other than make me better. And that's such an amazing thing to recognize as being coachable, understanding that you're going to end up on the right side of this. And if you listen to people that are willing to help invest in you, you're probably going to get something out of it. So hopefully people understand that a lot of people are just trying to help and find their own Trina, because Trina was amazing.
I had a very wise coach say the minute I stop giving you feedback is the minute you need to be concerned. So we're going to cheers to that.
I am going to cheers to that. That's pretty accurate. I'd say it's like they stop caring. If they're not giving you feedback, then they don't care. And that's scary.
It is. Okay, Paige, we are going to end on ridiculous, random, rapid fire questions. There is not insane shot clock, but don't take too long is kind of what I always like to say. What is your biggest fear?
Ooh, actual fear is fucking spiders with fur and you know what I'm talking about, the Harry Potter spiders in the movie.
Can't do it.
Not for me, man. Like I'm not killing this. I'm a tough girl for a lot of reasons. I am not tough around. Like if I see a tarantula in Scottsdale, it's a wrap, yo. I'm out. Like you'll never see me run faster than that moment. I can assure you of that.
All right. What is your drink of choice?
Oh, vodka soda with a lemon and a lime preferred.
Beautiful. What is the kindest thing a stranger has done for you?
Ooh. Giving me their time. I'll answer that. Giving me their time when I think time is the only thing we can't get back. So I think that that's the greatest thing anybody could give anybody.
Amen. I will echo that. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
All right. What is the best Wi-Fi name you've ever seen?
Man, there's a plethora of inappropriate jokes that I wish I could remember all of the great like plays off of the word penis that I've seen on a Wi-Fi network that have been so funny. But I think during the height of Game of Thrones, it was like, you will not break the wall or something like that, where I was like, this is epic, right? Like I just like, in an apartment complex, like this person, like I have a wall, it's on the outside of my house and you cannot take my Wi-Fi from me. I was like, all right, Jon Snow, check. Love that.
I love it.
That.
Okay, so you and I are both Chicago gals, and I have this belief that Chicagoans always got a guy, and we got guys for the weirdest things on the planet. So I will give you my like 3, which maybe will help inspire something in you.
Yep.
I got a meat guy who comes to my house, chops everything up. I have an Amazon Fire Stick jailbreaking guy. And I have a foot detox guy, gal.
That's amazing. This is not a stretch. Okay. First and foremost.
No, it's not at all.
It's not a stretch. Okay. So my mom and I both, this is back in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
That will bring you to the person that we have in Scottsdale. My mom has a 4'10" Irish man in Chicago. They call it his name. His name's Maz. He's like 55 years old, but that man fixes everything. Okay. I call him Vaz, I need you to jump into the washing machine, take it out. He's 4'10". How the hell is he going to get I'm like, Mom, he weighs 100 pounds. Like, how's he? Nope. Maz has got it. You're like, this man is a savior. Like, I don't know how he does it. Oh, by the way, your daughter's in Scottsdale. Oh, you need a guy who can be me when you're in Scottsdale. Oh yeah. Don't worry. A Bosnian man here, okay? I'm the only freaking person in Scottsdale who has a Bosnian man on speed dial, okay? Who could literally fix anything, okay? The water, he's been the sprinkler system, the refrigerator, the pipes, the this, like, okay, immigrants rule the world, okay? If you haven't figured that out by now, this 100%. Country does not survive a single freaking day without all the people that can actually do the shit that none of us know how to do. Okay. And I can assure you, none of y'all know how to do this. The second or third, I guess now, since I Maz and then my little Bosnian man, if you live in the West Coast, you know who I'm talking about, right? There is a very specific job, and it is the most terrifying, horrifying job on planet Earth. I'm convinced these people deserve millions of dollars because they risk their lives every day for palm trees. Okay. They literally, Jorge, I love you. Around the waist, okay, goes up the trees. I have palm trees that are like 35, 40 feet high with a machete to cut the leaves, the dead palm leaves, okay? I'm telling you, it is the most insane thing to watch live because he literally has a rope around his waist and just shimmies himself all the way up the freaking palm tree. And mind you, with a machete, okay, with a big, long freaking, that's what it is. There's no other word for it.
Yeah.
And it's just like this, gets up to the top, palm trees fall, goes down 2 feet, cuts him, goes down. And you're like, he's going to die and he's going to fall in my pool and I'm going to be traumatized for the rest of my life. But he does it in 5 minutes. And then he's like, okay, bye-bye. And goes across the street and does it for the next person. And I'm like, Jorge, I don't understand what is happening here. Like, what is this life? I don't get it. So Jorge is the palm tree guy. And the palm tree guy is a necessary thing that if you grew up in Chicago like I did, you didn't know this was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing.
No, because the palm leaves die and you can't let them die because then they like hang on and like bad bugs and stuff get into them. So they have to be cut every like 6 months. I'm telling you, I almost had a heart attack. Jorge, you're a savior. I got a palm tree guy.
You got
I got a palm tree guy, a palm tree leaf guy, mind you. It's not about the palm. It's about the leaves.
It's about the leaf.
Palm leaf that he comes and cuts. I'm taking a video and I'm posting it on social media next time. Y'all are going to freak. If you don't live in the West Coast and you're not used to this shit, you're going to be like,
what is this? Because that's how I feel right now. But I understand it because I lived in Miami. So like, I get it. Like
insane. It's insane.
Oh my
watching
God.
live. Yeah. Palm leaf guy.
Yep. Okay. What was your email address growing up? That embarrassing email address you don't want to admit you had?
To Roxy Surfer Girl 34. Okay. So I lived in Chicago. Roxy Surfer Girl. Yeah. Okay. Just so we're clear, I just went to Hawaii for the first time and learned how to surf at 31. Okay. I finally learned how to surf at 31. Childhood Paige was very happy, but I was like, God, what a weirdo. I thought Roxy Surfer Girl in Chicago, there's no oceans, Paige. No. Lake Michigan does not count.
No, it doesn't.
And the second one was like my screen name was like sporty blonde 989, right? Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm sporty and blonde. Like why do we do that? It's like
mine was Stretch Magoo 1192. I have been the same height since I was in like 5th grade. So everyone thought I was the tallest human being on the planet. And then everyone else just grew around me and I stopped growing.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
One of my friends' dads was like, what's up, Stretch? And it just stopped. I mean, it didn't stick, but it became my AOL.com email address.
Yep, definitely. And it definitely both of them were at AOL.com. I can confirm.
Always. What is the best piece of advice someone is giving you?
Oh, that's tough. I've been given so many great pieces of advice. I think to stick with the theme here is we will stick with the gratitude. I think as far as advice that's been given to me that has been impactful, I think that's the greatest piece of advice is just to learn how to practice gratitude. Like Tyron pushing that on me and telling me like, I'm telling you, this is one thing that's going to have, you're going to write one thing every day and it's going to take you 5 minutes and it's going to impact your life. And when somebody gives you advice that says like, you kind of think they're full of it. Oh, take 5 minutes every day to do this gratitude thing and it's going to change your life. You're like, yeah, whatever. Right. Like I get it. I was the person that listens to this podcast. I was you. Okay. I sat there and I was like, you're full of it. And he's like, no, spend it, try it, see if it happens. I'm still doing it 7 years later. Right. So it's obviously worked. Like it's a very impactful thing. So I think that's the best piece of advice that I actually put into use and practical and has been influential in my life is, kind of, I guess the message would be get over yourself, right? Like don't, kind of get over yourself and whatever preconceived notion you have about things, try things, right? And a lot of times those things will end up paying off. And gratitude is one of those things. If anybody takes anything away from this, I hope one person starts to practice gratitude because I think it's could be life altering for anybody truly at any point in their life.
I will echo that. Who should my next guest be?
Ooh, that's a great question. Who should your next guest be? Your next guest should be, this is a pipe dream, but I'm going to say it anyways. Justin Fields, pal, listen, welcome to Chicago, quarterback one. We are going to tag you on social media until you do bar talk here to welcome you to Chicago because I feel as if I am your mentor, Justin. Okay. I need to teach you about Chicago and who better. I'm going to set you up with my girl so she can tell you about all the things to avoid and not avoid, and also tell you how to, beat the Packers. So I'll help you on the scheme part and she's going to work on the bar part. So I think that's going to be really great podcast.
I think it would be such a fun podcast. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, fill in the blank. Paige Dimakos is what?
Ooh. Paige Dimakos is grateful. We will stay on tune today. That's like, man, this year already, like 2021 has been an amazing year. And maybe it's because I'm coming off of I feel like I'm just rolling into this year. Like so many things have been going well. And I am grateful to have a company in the Draft Network that saw net positive in a year that most people didn't, was able to add people when a lot of people had to, cut people in sports, and we're rolling into what is going to be the biggest NFL season ever with an unbelievable draft season in LA, Super Bowl, a Vegas draft. It's going to be just off. I can't even wait. And last night I went to a Suns playoff game against the Lakers, and it was a packed house and people were there. And I was like, life is back, baby. Like, I forgot how much I love this, man. Like I will never, ever, ever take for granted going to sporting events. I can assure you I became so spoiled because I've been going to so many that I was like, I don't even want to go to this playoff game. Snobby Paige is gone. She's never coming back. I am always going to remember what it felt like to not go to sporting events. And man, last night was a reminder of like, oh, I love this, man. This is so freaking fun. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful coming off of last night. I feel like I had the most amazing, like I'm just riding this wave of like, I'm so happy sports. Like it seems so silly. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like sports, man, but for the people that do, it's changes your whole mood, changes the whole dynamic. And we won't take for granted not being able to go see it live anymore, I don't think.
I know. All right. So Paige, if you will raise your glass with me,
yes.
I would talk to you for another hour if we had the time, but we don't.
Yes.
So to stick with the adversity theme, this is a quote by Walt Disney. And he says, all the adversity I've had in my life, all my troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers to that, girlfriend.
Alrighty then, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I hope you took something away from that conversation. I feel really like energized after that. And I just feel like I can go and like take the world and do whatever it is that I need to do. I seriously could have talked to Paige for another hour. We were on a little bit of a time crunch, so I had to cut out some questions just so we could fit it in that time. But we'll need to just have Paige back again. And me and Paige need to get some drinks when she comes into town. So like, I'm super excited. I know y'all are super excited. That's about it. Okay. Guys, if you like this, leave a review. Reviews help more than you know. Subscribe to the podcast on whatever form you listen to podcasts. If you are a person who watches the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us along on Facebook, on Instagram. We are at Bar Talk with Jenna across all platforms. And guys, I'm just really excited to be growing this with you and to be sharing drinks with you and to have everyone come to the bar with us because guys, there is enough room for everyone at the bar. All right. I will see you next time. And remember to take the time today to realize that we have way more in common with each other than we have different. I will see you next time. Take care.
Hey, everybody. It's closing time. You don't got to go home, but you can't stay here.